Hey everybody, it's Liz from ofTarot. Today I'm here to talk about day 4, 5, and 6 of Ethany's 31 Days of Tarot Challenge for 2020. So for day 4, the prompt was to talk about your 5 most used decks from 2010 to 2019. And so here are mine. So I started out many years ago when I first started working with tarot using the Mother Peace deck. And that was the only deck I had for many years. And then about maybe 6, 8 years ago, I decided, you know what, I really want to dive into the tarot. I really want to learn tarot. And so I decided to get a Rider-Waite-Smith deck. But the original Rider-Waite-Smith deck coloring didn't really appeal to me. So I found the Radiant Rider-Waite-Smith, and I liked the coloring on that. I liked that deck, and so that is the Rider-Waite-Smith deck that I decided to, really get to know Rider-Waite-Smith and to really learn how to become a tarot reader without having to look at books or, get freaked out or wonder what to do next. And so this was the deck I used. And starting that year, I think it was 2014. I can't remember exactly, but I think it was 2014. I said to myself, okay, I'm going to pull a tarot card every day for 1 year. And at the end of the year, I'll see how I'm doing in terms of learning tarot. And this was the deck that I worked with. So after about, 3 months or 4 months or so, I realized that just pulling one card a day was a fine way to maybe understand or memorize or get to know certain cards and look at the symbols and, see what intuitively came up for me when I looked at the card. But you couldn't really become a tarot reader doing that because you only have one card and there's no context. So then I said, okay, for the rest of the year, I'm going to pull 3 cards. And that's what I did. I started on February 2nd, and I remember it because it was Candlemas or Imbolc. And I decided for, as I said, 1 full year, I would work with tarot every day. And I journaled about my pulls. And I have to say that when I got to the end of the year, I went back and looked at my journals, and I only missed like 6 days. So I was pretty proud of myself because I have a hard time focusing and committing and following through on things like this. So anyway, I thought I'd show the aces. I know everyone knows this deck, but I do love the coloration. These. And then a few of my favorite cards. I love this 6 of Swords. The 4 of Swords. I love a card that reminds us to take some time out, to rest, to recuperate, to rejuvenate. Because especially in Western culture, it's like, you're sick, so what? Go to work. Send the kids to school. And really this is a card that reminds us, take time out. If you're sick, be sick, rest, recuperate. If you're overtired, take time out. So I do love that card. And then kind of on the other side of the coin here is the 4 of Wands, which is celebrate, enjoy, be happy. So this card, the 9 of Wands, I love this card. This was my, when I did my end of the year spread for 2019, this was the card that came up for my theme. And boy, is it ever spot on. Yeah. That's me. But you know what? Bruised, battered, but I'm still standing and I'm still moving forward. So, hey. All right, so Rider-Waite-Smith, as I said, I took a year to kind of do a immersion study of that deck. And I started reading for myself on a regular basis and a few friends here and there. So one of the things that has sort of kept me from really embracing Rider-Waite-Smith to begin with was the lack of diversity. And, when I think about it now, I think, all right, well, this deck was created in the early 1900s in England, and it's probably reflective of the population of that area back then. And so I'll cut Pamela Coleman Smith and Arthur Waite some slack on that because of the times in which it was created. But for modern day decks, I really prefer to see more inclusivity of a variety of ethnicities and races and ages and body types and gender expression and sexuality and all those things that make everyone feel like they can relate to a particular tarot deck. So I don't remember where I first saw this next deck. I can't recall, but I saw it and I fell in love with it and thought, I have to get this deck. And it is the Gaian Tarot. And so the first thing I got, the first Gaian Tarot deck I got was the Llewellyn version. And I liked it quite a bit. And then I found out that the creator, Joanna Powell Colbert, had a limited edition deck. And so I bought the limited edition. And I'm really glad that I did. I really love this deck a lot. It's quite large. This is a standard Rider-Waite-Smith or standard tarot deck size, and you can see it's quite a bit bigger. And this deck is quite inclusive, I think, and it made me so happy to see this. So here we see in this card, the World card, and the Hermit. We see some older folks, Two of Wands. We see some older folks. She calls the suits by the elements, so air, fire, water, earth. Here we see the child of fire, so again, representation of different ages, representation of different ethnicities. Again, here's another older person. People here, I love this one because we see folks interacting together from a variety of different ethnicities. Another one of my favorite cards in this deck. Oh yeah, that is the Four of Wands. The High Priestess is shown in her crone and mother guises. Here's the Justice card. I love the Moon card. I'm really not a fan of decks that show the moon to be about treachery and deceit and so forth, and then they show the card and represent the card as the sun, and represent the sun as masculine, and it's joyful and it's positive and it's wonderful, and the Moon card is the feminine, and it's deceit and it's treachery and it's the unseen and the unknown. And I mean, yes, we need to be warned about deceit and treachery, but I tend to look at this card mainly as representing the sacred feminine. I do talk a lot about that on my channel, so I won't say too much more about it in this video, but here is a Moon card that I think expresses how I feel and how I view this card as the divine feminine. The Wheel is not necessarily one of my favorites, but here we see the Wheel expressed as the wheel of the year. You can see the seasons are expressed there. The cycles of the moon are expressed there, and I really love that one. Another card that I was never too fond of from Rider-Waite-Smith was the Hierophant. And Joanna has represented the Hierophant as the teacher. And so here we see an elder sitting under a tree, surrounded by plant spirits and animals. And this elder is giving the wisdom that they have about nature and healing with nature to anyone who wants to take advantage of that. Another card that is a particular favorite of mine in this deck is the Seeker, or the Fool. But how Joanna represents the card is as the Seeker. And we can see this person is setting out on their journey. They have their trusty companion with them, and they are getting ready to go explore and take a leap of faith as they go explore the worlds before them. And then this card is the Creator herself, standing in a lavender field. So this is Joanna. I guess she's at a friend's lavender farm. So that is one of my favorite decks, one of my most used decks. I actually have 3 copies of it. I have the Schiffer, the Llewellyn, and then this special edition one. I never use the Schiffer one. It's too shiny and I don't like those blue borders. But I usually use the Llewellyn one, and on special occasions, or when I want to put a card on my altar, I'll use the limited edition. This next deck that I use the most over the last decade was a deck that I saw, I think it was maybe in the first issue of the Cartomancer. It was quite a few years ago. This is a first edition of this deck, and it is the Tarot de Saint Croix by Lisa de Saint Croix. And you can see my box is faded and battered and bruised, but that's just reflective of how much I love and use that deck. And I thought I would show the aces of this deck. So here's the Ace of Swords, the Ace of Wands, the Ace of, I almost said the Ace of Champagne, haha, the Ace of Cups, and the Ace of Pentacles. And here are some of my favorite cards from this deck. I love the High Priestess. I love this Ten of Cups. It's so festive and celebratory. And I am a sucker for a glass of champagne, so I love seeing that on the Ten of Cups. This World card is one of my favorite renditions of this card. I actually bought a print of this card from Lisa. I think this Empress is a beautiful card. I love this Hermit. It's lovely to see the Hermit portrayed as female. The Six of Swords is one of my favorite minor cards. And here we can see Lisa's expression of it. This is a beautiful star card with Newt. And this I always get a chuckle out of, especially when I first saw it. Again, it's the Hierophant, but look who the Hierophant is, the Dalai Lama. I can get next to that. This, I think, is my favorite Seven of Wands, and it made me really love the Seven of Wands. This is an Amazon tribe standing up and protecting the their area in South America. They're defending the Amazon. And this deck is, I don't know, it's got to be at least 10 years old. And that card was sort of prescient, I think, because, in fact, over the past year or so, we have seen these folks actually standing their ground and defending what they believe in and where they live. I really like this Nine of Swords. It gave me a deeper understanding of the Nine of Swords. So as you can see, the light is shining through the shades over here and reflecting on the wall. So it's not, there aren't 9 swords there. It's the reflection shining through from the shade. So what wakes us up at 2 a.m. and keeps us awake till 5 a.m.? Is it an illusion or is it reality? Are we worrying about something that doesn't really exist or matter, or that we can't really do anything about at that time? Probably so. So I love this expression of the Nine of Swords. And I love the coloring in this Magician card and this Three of Cups. I love playing board games and sitting around with family and friends and drinking tea and playing cards, and this expression of this card really touched my heart. So the next deck I want to talk about is the Sasaribito. When this deck first came out, I was seeing people post about it on Instagram and other platforms, and I thought people were gushing and raving about it, and I thought, no, I don't think so, not for me. And then the more I saw it and the more images I saw of it, I thought, I like this deck. And then when I was ready to buy it, it was at least temporarily out of print. So I traded for it. Have no idea what I traded for it, but I got one of the first editions. I love this deck. Here's the Ace of Cups. This deck, to me, the minute I started reading with it, I never had to look at the guidebook. It just was so easy to read. And I use it when I read for others, when I read for clients, and people are so intrigued with it. They really, really like it. Everyone by now has probably seen this fabulous expression of the Eight of Cups. This one, I adore, this King of Cups, because it reminds me of my dad. And my dad's parents were born in Scotland. And whenever I have gone to Scotland to spend time with my relatives there, tea is a big deal. And in my family, the tea comes out when we're upset, when we're happy, when we're gathering together, when we want to celebrate something, when someone needs a shoulder to cry on, and just going through the ritual of making tea. I can remember going to a friend's house one time, and she said, oh, here, just put the water in a cup and put it in a microwave. And I was like, what? Oh, no, I got to boil the water. What do you mean put it in the microwave? So for me, there's a whole ritual around preparing tea, and it means a lot to me. And my dad was a kind and gentle, supportive soul, and so that alone reminds me of him, but also the fact that I see it as him pouring and offering a cup of tea. Again, I love the Queen of Cups. Again, embracing the teacup. Gorgeous, beautiful Queen of Swords. And again, another lovely Three of Cups. And here's Mr. Fuckboy, right? The Knight of Wands. Gorgeous, gorgeous Death card. I think this is one of my all-time favorite Death cards. Eight of Pentacles. So there's humor in this deck, as well as I think there is some inclusivity and some diversity, and a range of body shapes. And so I think it's important to have people be able to look at the deck and see themselves reflected. It's painful for people to look at a deck and just see all one type of person. I mean, I get sometimes that people want to create a niche deck, or, like the Druid craft or the whatever, something that is about, the melanated tarot is all one group of people. So that is different. But just a general deck, we should be more considerate about people feeling included. And I agree with folks that say representation matters. It really does. And so I think St. Croix, Guyan, and Sasarabito have taken steps towards that. Are they perfect? No. But they are have made an attempt to be inclusive, and I really appreciate that. So my fifth deck, that is the most used deck, is actually a deck that I got a year ago. And I wasn't going to include it because I thought, well, I've only had it a year. But I have used this deck just about every day for over a year now. So that's over 365 times I've used this deck. So I think it probably does qualify as being one of my most used decks. And that is Patrick Fogarty's The Living Wheel astrology cards. I bought this deck solely because I wanted to delve a little into astrology. I don't really know much about astrology, and I just thought this would be a way that I could start to be thinking about and learning about astrology on a regular basis without having to take a course or reading a lot of books or whatever. And so I got the deck, never ever expecting to use this deck on a daily basis. But in the deck, with the deck, you get this pamphlet that gives you information, a keyword for each one of the cards. And then on the back of the pamphlet are a few ways to use it. And one of the ways is this one. So it's the sun card, the star sign in the sun on that day, the moon phase card, and the star sign that the moon is in, the earth card, and the current seasonal card. And so I thought I'll give that a try. Little did I know that I would keep these cards out on my altar every day, going through the phases of the moon, the signs of the sun. So here's the sun card with the sign we're currently in, Capricorn. This moon phase is slightly off. I didn't change my cards out yet today. It should be a little bit fuller than the half moon, but it is, we are in Taurus. And then the seasonal card, here's the earth is in early winter. And I think the seasonal cards are my favorite in this deck. So I'll just show you. So we just saw early winter. This is late winter. Gorgeous, gorgeous cards. And this is early spring with the beautiful plantain. And then for Beltane or later spring, we see tulips. This is the solstice or early summer. Here we see Lughnasadh or late summer. The equinox, the autumnal equinox, are early fall, and then Samhain or late fall. Patrick has also included cards for the 12 houses, the 12 star signs, and the 7 major planets, including the sun. There's north node, south node of the moon. It's really a pretty complete package, and I can't recommend this deck more highly. I enjoy so much using it, and I travel a lot for work. And I set my altar up in hotel rooms, and this deck goes right on my altar, whatever hotel room I'm in, and I immediately feel at home and at peace and like I'm in my own sacred space. So I really love this deck. So that is the end of day 4, and now day 5. Ethany has asked us to talk a little bit about what have we learned, or what has tarot taught us over the past decade. And at the beginning of this decade in 2010, I did use tarot, but mainly just on the holidays like Candlemas, Spring Equinox, Beltane, and so forth, or on a special occasion. And I did use it, more than that, but it was not something that I delved into on a regular or daily basis at least. But starting in this decade, at some point, 2012 or 2014, I started using tarot every day. Also, this past decade had a number of years that for me were very challenging. There was a lot of difficulties with folks that were important to me, health issues, and I lost quite a few near and dear to me, and there was just seemed to be one challenge after the other, more than normal. And without tarot, sometimes I think, I don't know how I would have made it through the second half of this decade, because tarot was my confidant, it was my therapist, my advice giver. I can't believe how much I learned in terms of personal growth, understanding that without difficulties and challenges in life, there is no growth. And so, great, everything's all peachy and fine and happy, but are you growing and learning and developing? Really, tarot taught me that challenging times are when we grow the most. And I think that's a really important lesson for us to learn. And I also learned that I have the answers to my own problems, and by doing a spread or consulting tarot, I can find answers, and I can really open my heart and listen to what the universe has to say to me about challenging times. So I feel that I've learned a tremendous amount from the tarot in terms of personal growth and spiritual development, and I am forever indebted and grateful to the tarot, and also to some oracle decks as well. So that's it for day 4 and 5, and I will see you back here for 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Ciao.